What a President's Day thriller in Boston. The Stars fall to the Bruins by a final score of 4-3 in a shootout, but this is a version of the Dallas Stars that can win a Stanley Cup. I'll tell you why next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer, 105 Through the Fan, and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. What a hockey game in Boston this afternoon. The Stars had so many chances to end it, but it is the Boston Bruins that pick up the full 2 points. But if you're a Stars fan, you absolutely have to take this point after a battle against one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. Stars were without some of their best players, or just without players in general. They were outmanned, but not outplayed. What an effort. And it really leads me to believe this is a version of Dallas that can win the Stanley Cup. It was very, very positive watching the effort and performance we saw this afternoon. We're going to get into all the injuries, the call-ups, everything that's been happening here recently, some of the adversity that the Dallas Stars are dealing with. But let's talk a bit about this incredible game we just witnessed. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So heading into the contest, we assume that the Stars were going to be probably shorthanded because Jani Hakanpaa, of course, left the game against Edmonton on Saturday. Nils Lundkvist has been out since the Nashville game. But then we get word 10 minutes before puck drop, Matt Duchene is out with a lower body injury. Then we find out earlier, about an hour before puck drop, Miro Heiskanen is out because he stayed back at home for the birth of his baby girl. So congratulations to Miro Heiskanen. So the Stars are without their top D-man. They're without Hakanpaa and Lundkvist, two right-handed defensemen. And then they were without Matt Duchene. And we all know the impact that Mr. Duchene has had this season. So they already went in outman. We'll touch on the call-ups too here with Alex Petrovic and Derrick Pouliot. But why I say this is a version of the Stars that can win the Stanley Cup is because the edge they played with. They just had this edge to their game. Like, we're not going to go down. Everybody has written us off this afternoon. Boston's played bad. They're desperate during this homestand. They're going to come in and wipe the floor with us. And it was the exact opposite. The Stars bowed up, loved the physical nature of their game. It was a version of the Stars that we have not seen enough of this season. They out-hit the Bruins 28-1. And it wasn't just running amok and trying to start confrontation, so to speak. They bludgeoned the Bruins. They bruised them. And they almost came away with 2 points. Boston ends up getting the 6-on-5 goal late thanks to David Pastrnak. He didn't do anything the entire game. So I absolutely knew he was going to bury the tire, the game tire. It was just that seemed pretty obvious what was going to happen, that he makes his impact at the biggest point in the game. But I mean, the Stars played so well without key components of their roster, outshot the Bruins 22-12 in the second period. 22-12 in the second period. Taking a look at the quality chances after 40, Stars outpaced the Bruins 31-17. 31-17. I mean, they were all over the place. They had Boston on their heels, making turnovers, giving the puck away due to their hard work. They were just faster to the puck. They won a lot of 50-50 battles. They were hungry. And that is a version of the Stars. When you bring all the components back with Duchene and Miro and Hakanpaa and Lundkvist and hopefully Dodonov at some point, that can do a ton of damage come springtime. I don't think I could have been as thrilled with a shootout loss in my life. And even including the OT game against Edmonton. They put in a ton of effort. They were playing without one less skater. It was going to be a real tough challenge, and boy, they rose up to it. They got a point out of it. Yes, you feel a bit disgusted, or it's bittersweet because you had the lead late. You would have loved to grab the full 2 points, but you have to step back and realize Dallas was down a man. They were exhausted late. Exhausted. And they even had the majority, or I should say the better of chances in the OT frame. Sagan with a trifecta just could not find the back of the net. Harley hits the post. There's a few bounces that don't go your way, but they bowed up against is probably a top 5 Stanley Cup favorite with not even close the firepower. Not even close the firepower that they possess. Without your top defensemen, 2 AHL defensemen who, of course, have had some experience at the National Hockey League level, but they were a shell of themselves and really mopped the floor for large stretches of that game against a fantastic Bruins squad. I'm thrilled with the effort. I really am. I'm thrilled. Otter was fantastic. His expected goals against in the game was 3.9. What a shootout, by the way. Swayman and Otter just going back and forth. Stars had 3 chances to end it, probably even more. It was like 5 to end it in shootout. Just could not find it because Swayman and Otter were matching each other. It was quite the game. It goes 9 rounds, and the Bruins end up getting the win. Smith on the backhand flipped it over the pad of Swayman, and it just laid to rest on the goal line in the final half of the shootout. And that's how close the game was. That's certainly how close it was. Thomas Harley, talk about someone who stepped up, played 29 minutes in the game. He was phenomenal. Ryan Suter, actually, I thought played pretty decently. he scored a goal, his second goal this season. Actually ended up with the highest game score via Hockey Stat Cards, 3.15. And I thought he was great. So was Esa Lindell, who scored the go-ahead goal at the time in the third to make it 3-2. He played over 26 minutes. The Stars got 2 huge kills on the PK, and Boston really didn't generate all that much, and they have a ton of firepower on their power play units. I mean, the Stars just were hungrier. It was nice to see. It wasn't as much as we're just going to out-talent you, we're going to outscore you because we just have all this depth. And this is where your depth can flex its muscles in spots like these, and they did it. On the road, against a top 5 team in the NHL, and probably deserve more out of the game. Probably deserve more, but welcome to the NHL. You're not gonna win every game you deserve, and then you're gonna win some you probably had no business being in. And the Stars have had their fair share of both this season. Taking a look at just some of the possession numbers too, which I think are really the key here at 5-on-5. Stars outpossessed the Bruins in all 3 periods, over 50%. That second period, 69%. ended up with 14 scoring chances. I mean, just all over the ice. Your time on ice leaders in the game, as I mentioned, Thomas Harley, 29 minutes, 40 seconds. Lindell up to 26. Robertson, who was double shifted for a lot of the game, played over 23. Wyatt Johnston, who was shifty, he picks up a goal in the contest. He played over 22 minutes. I mean, they had to rely on guys to play heavy minutes against what really was a full roster of Bruins, and they hung tough. They hung extremely tough, and they had leads, and they just grinded it out. And yeah, they pushed it to OT. They had their looks. Sometimes you just got to bury them, and they just didn't execute. And that's the way the game goes sometimes. But you pick up two really, really meaningful points against Boston here today. You pick up the other against Edmonton after taking a penalty there. You just have to accept that, especially that you're getting on a flight and you're playing New York tomorrow, who we'll touch on as they play their first game after their little stadium series matchup. So it's huge. And you got New York on a back-to-back. You hope Miro at some point can join the trip. Who knows? But they have some work to do because the schedule does not get much easier here this week. But they played with the hand they were dealt, and they made swans out of it. They made a great game out of it. And they go 1 for 9 in the shootout. Not quite Hall of Fame numbers. Boston goes 2 for 9. And they squeak out with a 4-3 win. And you just have to be really, really positive moving forward about what we saw. That is a version of the Dallas Stars that can win a Stanley Cup. Playing with an edge. They're physical, grinding out shifts, bending but not breaking, getting good goaltending, bowing up when you're outmanned, when all the odds are stacked against you, so to speak, and rising up to the challenge and shooting way over it. Phenomenal game in Boston. What a thriller on President's Day. What a thriller. And Swayman shut the door in OT plus shootout to get the win. Let's talk about the cap space gymnastics the Stars have been dealing with here over the last 48 hours or so. Some of the injuries, the call-ups, and all the chaos that has been occurring over the last few days. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Camino Consulting. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from becoming big ongoing fights. Look, Stars fans, we've all been there. Sometimes we like to avoid conflict, but it really is important to bring up your misunderstandings, bring up the issues you may be having with a significant other, a friend, to work through them. Don't let it boil over, which we have all done in our lifetime. And after providing more than 20 years of service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboarding new employees, Camino is offering a digital seminar for families and couples. Did your Valentine's gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you would have hoped because you really got them for yourself? That's okay. We're all sports fans here. We've done it a time or two. Get the couples and family online seminar for 25% off the month of February using the discount code Locked On. Again, that is discount code Locked On for 25% off for the rest of the month at www.communiconsulting.ca, or mention Locked On when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles free. Hey, Stars fans, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. It is available on YouTube and Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports today, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Stars as well. Hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Hopefully you enjoyed your day off if you did have it here on President's Day. I know it's really weird. I think when I was younger, I felt like we all got President's Day off, and now some people do, some people don't. Either way, it was a thrilling hockey game against the Boston Bruins for the Stars. Unfortunately, fell in a shootout 4-3. Let's just kind of run through what has occurred over the last 48 hours for the Stars, because it's been very, very hectic. Of course, Jani Hakanpaa goes down with an injury against Edmonton, does not return to the game with an upper body injury. Nils Lundkvist, of course, has been out. They did recall Matej Blumel a few days ago, and that turned out to be a decision which allowed them to have enough cap space without moving Dadonov to the LTIR, but it also gave them a big enough cap hit, which makes the most out of LTIR, which Dadonov was placed on yesterday. The cap can be very confusing, and I may be just spewing a bunch of nonsense here, but doing my best to run you through why some of these moves were made. So Matej Blumel being brought on gave them a big enough cap hit, which gets them closer to the cap hit than, let's say, like Maverick Bourque or Stankoven would have had, which also maximizes their situation for putting Evgeny Dadonov on the LTIR. And of course, this morning, Alexander Petrovic and Derrick Pouliot get brought up from Texas, get recalled. Matej Blumel goes back because Miro Heiskanen was out, which we did not know at the time. And then Jani Hakanpaa, who we would assumed had been out, was not available to go. So they had to bring up a couple of defensemen, which meant they were down a forward, but they were able to throw a product out in the ice, and I thought played really well. Look, for Petrovic and Pouliot, they have over 200 games of NHL experience, and I thought they looked like it for the most part. They played pretty solid. Pouliot has a little offensive edge to him. I thought he was good in the defensive zone along with Petrovic, provided some physicality at some points, and I thought just played really solid. Really all you could expect of your recent call-ups from the American Hockey League. They came up and they're a veteran presence. Yes, I understand they have not played an NHL game in quite a while, but did not look like they were swimming out there at many points. They did not look outmatched in a lot of areas. And I thought gave the Stars great minutes when they needed them. And they made some plays here and there on the afternoon. Petrovic had a great look in that first period on Swayman, which was set up by Johnston. And just taking a look at some of the game scores, would love to see where they kind of fell amongst the entire Stars team. Pouliot ended up having a really, really nice game. 1.08 in just under 13 minutes. And then Petrovic played just over 12. He had minus 1.39. So they did not love Petrovic, but I thought he played solid. Pouliot was good, even got some power play time. Ended up with a block shot. And they gave the Stars minutes that they absolutely needed. They had to fill those gaps somewhere, and I thought did a great job. So it'll be interesting how they move this forward. I would expect Miro to join the road trip at some point. Maybe not here tomorrow against New York, but who knows? Maybe he catches the first flight out tomorrow. Hopefully he'll be ready to go come Thursday in Ottawa or Saturday in Carolina. But who knows with his birth of his new child. So who knows? But it's nice to kind of have the safety valve of two players that have been around the block for their careers and can get the job done in a pinch. And they got the job done against what really is a deep team in the Bruins with some premier talent in the league with Marchand and then Pasternak. And they had their moments in the game. The first goal, which was not even on them, Pavelski missed Boquist coming back, which allowed that wide open pretty much goal for Boquist to win against the grain. But I thought put together a real solid afternoon on short notice. I don't think you could have been more pleased with the effort that Pouliot and Petrovic gave you here against the Bruins. So, I mean, it's a lot of positives moving forward. Look, it's going to be a grind in the next 7 days or so with what has occurred. And yeah, that's just the NHL season. The Stars have been very lucky in terms that they have not dealt with a ton of this. A lot of turnover in the lineup recently, really the last 2 seasons, it feels like, because most of them have been healthy. And now they've been in a run here in January. It's leaked into February where guys are in and out of the lineup with different things. And Stars are going to have to find a way. You have to find a way. Nobody is sorry for you in this league. Every team is dealing with injuries, and you got to find a way to win games and pick up points. And so far, Stars have done that. Picked up a point here against Boston. Hopefully you can pick up a point against New York tomorrow, against a very good Rangers squad, another top 10 team in the National Hockey League. And they have to get the job done at any point. And they've risen to the challenge. This has been a really pleasing week, dating back to the game last Tuesday against Carolina. I mean, playing tough, playing with an edge, finding ways, maybe not getting over the hump every single time, but just really grinding out efforts. And I think for a lot of Stars fans, including myself, you want them to have that bit of reach down and feel that something is there, so to speak. If I could, I don't really know another way to explain it. So that's the one I'm going with. And just bow up and just be on your toes. And they were absolutely into it, engaged against a really good club, and frankly outplayed them for the majority of the hockey game. And sometimes the results don't fall your way. So that was awesome. And good to see that the call-ups are making a difference. They're making an impact. Yes, it's nothing to jump over the rainbow for, but you got to have depth within your organization to make it through an 82-game season. And the Stars are already thin at D, as we all know. And they have some safety valves. They have some safety valves in Petrovic and Pouliot that play a lot of minutes down in Texas too. They actually do not play together, by the way, for the Texas Stars. They are paired with different partners. So DeBoer just puts them together, and they seem comfortable, which is all you could ask for. They're both in their early 30s. I believe it was Petrovic who just turned 31 or is about to turn 32. Pouliot just turned 30, I think. So you have grown-ups in the room, and you're not asking them to do a ton. Play 10, 15 minutes a night. Help us out, and hopefully the Stars will work through some of these injuries and adversity they're facing. Let's shift over to the adversity column a bit here. Talk about the schedule upcoming. The February woes may just be beginning, so to speak, with this schedule and all of the chaos and injuries that have been piling up recently for the Dallas Stars. Let's do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Sleeper. We're past the halfway point in the season, Stars fans. There's been a lot of highs and lows, and of course, the Stars have been dealing with some adversity lately. But regardless of where the Stars are in the current standings, and they are first place in the Central Division, by the way, you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. We have to remind you every single day, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And you can play more than just daily fantasy hockey. You have daily fantasy NBA or Major League Baseball. Spring training is right around the corner. The world champion Texas Rangers are back and ready to rock. All you have to do, though, for daily fantasy hockey is pick the studs of the world. Your McDavids, your Ovechkins, your Crosbys. If they record more or less than Sleeper projections on things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus in a given game, you can win 100 times your bet on Sleeper. All you have to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Stars fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention, nail those picks, and you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and with location availability. So just a few footnotes, if you will, here after the Bruins game. Mason Marchment's 8-game point streak comes to an end, unable to register a point in that one. Tyler Seguin continues his climb up the all-time franchise leaders in games played. Matt Duchene is also coming up on a milestone. I believe it's his 400th goal. Will be his next one. And of course, he did not play last night. Miro Heiskanen's next game is going to be his 400th of his career. So the Stars do have some milestones as they work through this month of February. The Stars, however, they do have 76 points now. 34, 14, and 8. They have a 4-point advantage on the Colorado Avalanche. Winnipeg has 4 games in hand. They're currently playing as I'm speaking. Wow. Taking a look at one of these scores, the Wild are going to end up winning 9-7. That is just a complete, I don't even know what to call that. That is a barn burner. Thought the Stars played a crazy game here this afternoon. So Winnipeg, of course, does have, 4 games in hand now on the Stars. So they can definitely pull themselves back into the conversation. But looking ahead for the Stars and what they have to go through, of course, they have New York here tomorrow night. And then you play an Ottawa team that you should be able to handle. And then you got Carolina again on Saturday after you just beat them on their home ice. So they're about to play 4 games here in the next 6 nights. It does not get any easier, but I think this is a great sign for the Stars. Playing through adversity, having adversity, and they've already gone through it to some degree with Miro being out for 3 weeks. Otter was out for about a month, and they were able to survive. And I think that makes teams stronger. It engages the room. It has them come a bit closer in their journey, right? It's a journey throughout the 82-game regular season, heading into the playoffs, and they have a few scars, right? Maybe a few scar tissues with some of these losses and some of the guys that they're missing, but they're just finding a way. And I think it's admirable, and I think it's huge, and they're just working along. They extended their point streak to 5 games. They're 3-0-2 now in their last 5. And I just loved the gritty effort. And they didn't have a full lineup, and they're just finding a way. And guys like Wyatt Johnston are making an impact. I thought Jamie Benn played really good. And he's one of those guys that I think plays his best when the Stars are almost down for the count too. Ben just leads by example with his play. He's physical. He's big. He just has an impact. He's there backing up everybody. And the Stars just are dealing with a stretch of injuries that are piling up now. You lose 2 of your right shot defensemen. You were already really lacking depth there. Hakanpaa's out. Lundkvist is out. You lose a forward and Evgeny Dodonov, but hey, we can survive because our offense is so great to begin with. Delhi's jumped right into the mix. Great teams have good players on the bench. Great teams have good players on the bench. Every championship team does. They don't play every single day. They jump in. It's the players you did not think were going to have a huge impact coming into the season that are, and maybe Petrovic and Pouliot will add some of that here in the next few weeks. But of course, we'd rather them not be here because that means the Stars have their depth and the defensive position. But look, this also all leads to you have to get another defenseman. And unfortunately, some of your leverage kind of goes away when you lose two of your right shot defensemen when dealing with other teams. That's going to be the real hard aspect that Jim Neal has to compete with. How desperate do you really want to be? Are you okay giving up a first round pick? Are you okay giving up maybe two if you need to bring in a couple? Are you okay with giving up a really talented asset besides Stankoven or Bork because you hang up the phone? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered before the trade deadline comes to a close here at the first week of March, because how long is Lundkvist going to be out? How long is Hakanpaa going to be out? Those have to play a factor in your negotiating when you negotiate, right? Because teams are gonna be like, well, you obviously need this really bad. How bad do you want it? Type thing. So yeah, it's a bad time. It's not ideal, but it's what it is. And look, the Stars are going to make way with it, and I think it's been a great step so far. It's a great step from what we saw here this afternoon against Boston. Have to try to replicate that against a really good Rangers team here tomorrow night. Of course, we'll talk about that game some more. We'll touch on some of the call-ups, what the Stars plan to do moving forward tomorrow, because there is just a plethora of talking points currently with this Stars team. A little bit longer of an episode today just because of all the chaos that ensued here this afternoon. Stars fall in a shootout to the Bruins by a final score of 4-3. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Enjoyed your President's Day. Maybe enjoyed a day off. Let's have a wonderful week. Stars fans, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on the Twitter, the X thing, Joey the Jet 19. Follow Locked on Stars on Twitter as well. We'll jump into another episode tomorrow, jumping in to some of those juicy topics, and we'll preview the New York Rangers. Stars hockey is alive and well, Stars fans. It's a bit chaotic, but they're still within the top 5 of the National Hockey League, man. Woo! They are buzzing, okay? They are buzzing, even with a couple of OT pass regulation losses. We will see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow. Talk some more Stars. So long, Stars fan.